The unseen arrival. In the boundless depths of space, where even the brightest stars seem like faint whispers against the void, the Kaiser flagship tore through hyperspace. Its crystalline hull, sharp-edged and smooth as glass, gleamed with an unnatural glow. It was as if the ship itself was a being, alive with the ancient energies of the cosmos. The massive vessel slowed as it entered the solar system, its many facets catching the pale light of a distant yellow sun. High Commander Zarl stood tall in the command center, her posture regal and unwavering. Her iridescent scales shimmered, a kaleidoscope of colors that shifted with every subtle movement. Her primary eyes, large and expressive, scanned the view of the system displayed before her. A soft hum filled the air as the ship's engines wound down, preparing to make its entry into the inner system. "Commander," the voice of her chief science officer, Ven, broke the silence, deep and reverberating like the echo of 1,000 thoughts. Ven was an ancient entity, a being composed of fluid, transparent tendrils that swayed like liquid in the air. His presence was both a blessing and a curse to the crew, his vast intellect and mental capacity serving as both guide and enigma. "Yes, Ven." Zarl's voice was calm, but a tension lingered in her words, as it always did when the unknown loomed close. "The third planet," Ven continued, his tendrils curling as he processed the incoming data streams. "Preliminary scans confirm the existence of a primitive, industrial civilization. Their technology appears to be limited: radio waves, atmospheric pollution, rudimentary satellites. They are far from achieving FTL travel, Commander." The Carter scale rating is 0.7. In short, they are not much different from many of the lesser worlds we have encountered. Zarl's mandibles clicked softly in annoyance. A fleeting sense of disappointment rippled through her. This was not the discovery they had hoped for. The Cry Collective, her people, had ventured across the stars in search of allies, hoping to find a race capable of withstanding the expansion of the Nexus Empire. Instead, they had found another primitive world, a civilization stumbling in its infancy, incapable of contributing to the war effort. "Take us closer," Zarl ordered after a long pause, her eyes narrowing as she studied the planet on the holographic map. "We'll observe, but we won't waste resources on them yet." The flagship, a marvel of stealth technology, slid silently through the system. It was invisible to any sensors the humans might possess, if they even had the capability to detect them. They passed the red deserts of Mars, noting the ruins of old, crumbling research outposts scattered across its surface. Simple, yet telling signs of a race just beginning to venture beyond their own atmosphere. Zarl had seen this before, a civilization making its first hesitant steps into the larger galactic stage. Yet, when the ship drew closer to the moon, everything changed. "Commander," Ven's voice carried a tinge of alarm. "We're detecting an energy spike. It's unlike anything we've seen before." Zarl's sharp gaze flicked to the redouts. Her scales shifted to a deeper shade of red, her instincts instantly on alert. "What do you mean? Is it a natural phenomenon?" Ven hesitated for only a moment before replying. "No, Commander. This is something purposeful. It's a concentrated beam of energy, directed at us with surgical precision. It's already in motion." Before he could finish, the energy wave hit the flagship with brutal force. The ship's advanced shields, designed to deflect even the most powerful of weaponry, buckled under the impact. They shimmered and fractured, collapsing like fragile glass. The crew recoiled in shock. "Impossible," Zarl hissed, her claws curling into fists of disbelief. "How did they even detect us?" Ven's tendrils twitched, his mind racing as he processed the data. "Commander, it's not just the energy. Their technology, it's beyond what we expected. This shouldn't be possible for a civilization at this level." Zarl's mind raced. Every scan they had made of Earth, its primitive satellites, their basic computer systems, had painted a picture of a young world still grappling with its place in the cosmos. And yet, in one instant, the humans had demonstrated a technology far more advanced than anything they should have possessed. Before Zarel could issue another order, a calm voice echoed through the ship's bridge, cutting through the tension like a blade. "Unidentified vessel," the voice said, its tone cool and authoritative. "You have entered restricted space. Your stealth systems are impressive, but outdated by our standards. Power down immediately and prepare to receive boarding parties. Any hostile action will result in immediate defensive measures." Zarel froze, the air around her charged with a sudden, unbearable silence. The voice spoke perfect universal standard, but what chilled her more than the language was the sheer confidence behind it. How could a species so primitive, so undeveloped, speak with such authority? For a fleeting moment, Zarel considered retreating, but her pride and curiosity held her fast. Who were these humans? How had they developed technology capable of piercing their cloaking shields? "Scan the moon's surface," Zarel commanded, her voice steady but laced with an edge of suspicion. "What else is hidden there?" Ven's tendrils flared, and his voice was laced with growing concern. "Commander, we are detecting power signatures unlike any we have ever seen. Underground complexes, massive structures, quantum computing arrays. The energy signatures are far beyond anything we would expect from a civilization of this level." Zarel's mind whirled with disbelief. Everything they had thought they knew about Earth, their satellites, their fossil fuel-dependent systems, was a lie. This was not a primitive world at all. Before they could analyze further, another signature flared to life on their sensors, and a sleek, unfamiliar vessel emerged from the shadow of the moon. Its design was like nothing the Kaiser had encountered before, an elegant fusion of ancient and futuristic aesthetics, as if it were an artifact from a bygone era, yet capable of incredible technological feats. "This is not possible," Zarel murmured under her breath. "What are we dealing with here?" Another transmission came through, breaking her thoughts. The calm human voice returned, almost bored now, as if speaking to a child. "Final warning. Power down your systems within 10 seconds, or we will be forced to demonstrate capabilities far beyond your imagination." Zarel felt a chill run through her. This was no longer a simple scouting mission. The humanity they had expected to be weak, fragile, and primitive had just shown them something far more dangerous, and they were only beginning to understand what lay beneath the surface. Her mandibles clicked once more, this time in a rare sign of uncertainty. "Prepare for immediate compliance," she ordered, her voice cold with resolve. This just became far more interesting. The Kaiser flagship, once the Predator, now found itself on the precipice of a deeper mystery, and it would soon learn that Earth was not as it appeared. It was far older, far wiser, and far more powerful than anyone had imagined. The hidden depths. The Kaiser flagship hung in the shadow of the moon, its once impregnable cloaking shields now compromised. Commander Zarel's iridescent scales flashed in waves of frustration, her mind racing. Everything they had known about Earth, its primitive technology, its lack of galactic influence, had been a carefully constructed illusion. What they had discovered in the span of moments, with a single energy pulse and a calm human voice, shattered all of it. Zarel's claws gripped the control panel, her mind calculating the next steps with military precision, but uncertainty gnawed at the edges of her thoughts. The Kaiser Collective had encountered countless worlds, from those teeming with life to others long abandoned. They had learned the languages of hundreds of species, traded knowledge, and fought brutal wars. But this was different. "Ven," Zarel said, her voice cool despite the tension. "Tell me more about this ship, the one that just emerged from the moon's shadow. I need answers." Ven's tendrils twitched as they processed the incoming data. His voice was filled with awe and confusion, something rare for the Kaiser scientist. "Commander, the vessel is beyond our comprehension. It seems to be a hybrid, a fusion of ancient designs and technology that should not exist in their timeline. There is no record of anything like it in the Galactic archives. It doesn't even match any known species style, and yet it is clearly human-made. Zaral's mind reeled. The Caesar had catalogued civilizations across the stars, yet the humans had somehow created something that defied all known logic. How had they done it? And why hide it on the moon? Their technology, it's ancient, yet it pulses with a strange energy, Ven continued. I cannot fully grasp the origins, but there is something far more sophisticated beneath the surface of their civilization. It's like they've been playing the part of a primitive species for millennia, only to reveal something far older, far more powerful when the time was right. Zaral's primary eyes narrowed as she stared at the lunar surface, barely able to process the implications. If the humans had truly been hiding their advanced technology for so long, what else had they concealed from the galaxy? How could a civilization so seemingly backward, so trapped in its infancy, have kept such a secret? Commander, the human vessel is hailing us again. Ven's voice cut through her thoughts. Zaral's eyes flared with intensity. She hadn't expected a second transmission, but the humans were proving to be anything but predictable. Put them through, she ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos inside her. A moment passed before the image of a human officer appeared on the bridge's holographic screen. The man was calm, his uniform a stark contrast to the Kaiser's shimmering exoskeletons. His face, youthful yet marked by a hardened resolve, was framed by the backdrop of a vast command center, filled with blinking consoles and advanced machinery. The insignia on his chest signaled a rank far higher than Zaral had anticipated. Yet it was his eyes that held her attention. They were calm, unflinching, as though he had seen everything the universe had to offer, and nothing could surprise him. This is Captain Elias King of the Lunar Defense Fleet. The human's voice echoed through the bridge, smooth and controlled. You are in violation of our space, and we have already marked your position. We've detected your vessel's arrival and have disabled your cloaking systems. This is your final warning. Power down or we will initiate defensive measures. Zaral's mind raced. How had they done it? Their sensors should have been primitive, inadequate against Kaiser technology. Yet the humans had bypassed their defenses with terrifying ease. How is this possible? Zaral whispered under her breath, but Ven, ever the scientist, responded almost immediately. They are not what they seem, Commander, Ven said, his voice tinged with awe. Their technological capacity, it defies everything we know about them. I've detected quantum encryption algorithms in their communications that should be millennia beyond their time. Zaral's eyes blazed with a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Tell me everything, Ven, now. The Kaiser scientist's tendrils shifted, his mind processing the data at light speed. Commander, I've been scanning the moon's surface, and the energy signatures I detected earlier are growing stronger. There are massive underground facilities, quasi-industrial in nature, but they are far from ordinary. These structures house vast amounts of advanced technology that should have been impossible for a civilization at this stage of development. Zaral turned her attention back to the human captain, her voice cold as ice. Captain King, we have no intention of fighting. We are merely explorers, seeking knowledge, not war. But if your species has something to hide, I demand to know what it is. There was a brief pause, a moment of silence that stretched across the void, before Captain King's voice broke the quiet. You don't understand, he said, his tone laced with an unexpected gravity. We didn't hide our technology. It was lost, forgotten, buried beneath centuries of myth and deception. Earth was never just another young world. It was the cradle of an ancient civilization, one that predates the rest of the galaxy by millennia. What you're seeing now is only a fragment of what we were, and what we are about to become. Zaral felt the weight of his words settle like a stone in her stomach. The humans had been hiding nothing. They were not a primitive species. They were the descendants of something far older, far more powerful. And what lay beneath the surface of their homeworld was far more dangerous than anyone had realized. For the first time in her long life, Zaral felt the cold sting of doubt. The Cry Collective had always been the undisputed leaders of the galaxy, the ancient ones who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. But now, for the first time, she wasn't sure if they were the true elders of the stars. "Prepare to be boarded," Captain King's voice said calmly, his words sending a ripple of tension through the bridge. "We'll answer your questions, but only when you've seen what lies beneath." Zaral's heart raced as the transmission ended, and she turned to her crew. A heavy silence filled the room, broken only by the steady hum of the flagship's systems. "We've underestimated them," Zaral muttered to herself, barely audible. "And now we have no choice but to learn the truth." The Kaiser flagship drifted closer to the moon, its fate sealed by the knowledge that the humans were not what they seemed. A new chapter in galactic history was about to unfold, and the Kaiser would have to confront the terrifying truth of humanity's hidden legacy. Beneath the surface, the Kaiser flagship hovered in eerie silence as it descended toward the moon's surface. Zaral stood at the center of the bridge, her eyes flicking between the data readouts and the vast emptiness outside the ship. There was a palpable tension in the air, thick with anticipation. She could feel the weight of the unknown pressing against her, a force far greater than any military threat she had ever faced. "Commander," Ven's voice broke the quiet, his tendrils twitching in a rare sign of unease. "We are approaching the designated coordinates. There's a heavy concentration of energy signatures below the surface, as if the entire moon is hollowed out, constructed in ways that defy all logical design." Zaral narrowed her eyes, her gaze fixed on the moon. "Hollowed out," she echoed. "Do you mean to say there's a massive complex buried beneath?" Ven responded with the only answer he could offer. "Yes, and it's not just one. There are dozens, if not hundreds of interconnected structures, some of them massive, others intricate, almost like the veins of a living organism. The complexity is beyond what I have seen before." Zaral's mandibles clicked softly in thought. She had assumed the moon was little more than a barren rock, a stepping stone on humanity's path to the stars. But now it seemed that the truth was far more intricate and far more dangerous. The flagship's engines hummed in readiness as the ship descended, its cloaking systems deactivated as per Captain King's orders. There was no longer any need for stealth. Humanity's secrets were now laid bare. The ship glided gently over the rugged surface of the moon, its massive frame casting a long shadow on the dust and craters below. For a moment, it felt as though they were approaching a tomb, silent, forgotten, but brimming with ancient power. As the flagship settled into a secure orbit just above the lunar surface, a sudden rumble vibrated through the hull. Zaral's claws tightened instinctively, her eyes darting to the control panel. A deep, resonating hum filled the air, followed by a sharp click, the sound of something unlocking. "Commander," Ven's voice was tinged with curiosity and dread. "The energy signature, it's intensifying. The surface is reacting to our presence." Zaral frowned, her mind flashing to the implications. It was as though the very moon itself was alive, watching, responding to their every move. A sense of foreboding crept through her like a shadow. "Open a channel to Captain King," Zaral ordered. "We're ready." A few moments passed before the human's calm voice filled the bridge. "This is Captain King. We've prepared the landing zone. You will be escorted by our security personnel. Please follow our guidance, and we'll take you to the heart of the complex." Zaral nodded, though she knew he couldn't see her. "We'll follow your lead. But remember, we come in peace, Captain. Any action against us will be met with immediate retaliation." The silence on the other end of the communication stretched long before King's voice returned, dry but understanding. "Understood, Commander. We're all aware of the stakes here." With that, the transmission ended, and the Kaiser crew began preparing for the descent. Zaral gave a final glance at the view screen, her sharp eyes scanning the moon's surface one last time before they moved inward. The shuttle bay doors of the flagship opened with a soft hiss. Zaral's personal guard, an elite squad of Kaiser warriors, stood ready in full armor. Their exoskeletons glimmered in the low light, their weapons primed and ready for any contingency. But Zarel knew that this would not be a typical confrontation. The humans, despite their sudden show of power, had not yet shown signs of aggression. In fact, everything pointed to one simple truth: humanity had been waiting, hiding, for a long time. As the shuttle descended toward the surface, the dark expanse of the moon unfolded beneath them. The jagged craters, once thought to be the remnants of ancient impacts, now appeared to be carefully engineered. Each crater seemed to hide something: a structure, a door, a passageway leading deep into the bowels of the moon. The moon, far from being a barren rock, seemed to be the top of a massive, underground labyrinth. Zarel's gaze flicked from the viewscreen to Ven, who stood silently at her side, his tendrils swaying slightly in the zero-gravity environment of the shuttle. His mental faculties were absorbed in processing the massive amounts of data they had gathered, but even he couldn't conceal the deep intrigue emanating from his being. Ven, Zarel spoke softly, the weight of the moment pressing on her. Do you think this is the work of a single species? Ven's voice was calm but laced with an unusual tone of respect. Commander, I believe the humans are not the only ones involved here. This technology is far too advanced, too ancient. I suspect this was built by an older civilization, one that predates both the humans and even the Kaiser. Zarel's mandibles clicked in curiosity. An ancient civilization? You're suggesting that humans did not build this, but found it. Ven's tendrils quivered, as if he was reaching for a deeper understanding. Yes, and the technology is more than just a relic. It's still active, still functioning. It was only hidden, waiting. What we are about to see is not just humanity's secret, it's the galaxy's secret. The shuttle touched down gently on the lunar surface, the soft hiss of the landing gears marking their arrival. The doors opened slowly, revealing the stark, grey landscape of the moon, which stretched endlessly before them. And yet, there was something undeniably alive about the place, a hum that reverberated through the ground, the air, even their bones. Standing in front of them were several human soldiers, their faces hidden behind sleek helmets. Their uniforms were high-tech, more advanced than anything the Kaiser had seen on the surface, but they were unmistakably human. One of them stepped forward, his posture rigid with respect. Commander Zarel, the soldier spoke in perfect universal standard. Welcome to the heart of humanity's secret. Behind him, a vast, imposing structure loomed, an entrance carved into the moon's surface, flanked by enormous monolithic pillars. The structure radiated power. Its cold stone exterior was intricately etched with symbols and markings Zarel could not comprehend. Follow us, the soldier said. We have much to show you. Zarel's heart thudded in her chest as she stepped forward. The moment had arrived. The truth about humanity, the secrets of the moon, and the unimaginable power beneath it all were now within her reach. And she knew, with a certainty that sent a shiver down her spine, that nothing would ever be the same again. The awakening. As Zarel and her crew followed the human soldiers through the vast, looming entrance, the air around them seemed to shift. It was colder here, deeper within the bowels of the moon, where the walls were etched with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. There was no sound, no hum of machinery or the whisper of distant voices, just a heavy silence that felt as though it had been undisturbed for eons. The only sounds were the soft footfalls of the Kaiser and the steady, rhythmic steps of the human guards. The path they walked on seemed alive. It was as though the moon itself were watching them, waiting. Zarel could feel the ground subtly shift beneath her feet with each step, and there was a tingling sensation on the back of her neck, as if the very air was charged with something ancient, powerful. Commander, Ven whispered, his voice reverberating in the stillness. This structure, it's not merely a building. It's alive, its materials, its design, it all seems organic. Almost as though the entire complex was grown, not built. Zarel's eyes scanned their surroundings, her sharp gaze flicking between the walls, which pulsed with faint bioluminescent light. There were no signs of dust, no age to the place. Everything seemed perfectly maintained, as if it were waiting for them. It was as though this underground world had been frozen in time, its builders long forgotten until now. The human captain, Elias King, walked ahead of them, his back straight and purposeful. His soldiers moved in formation, their helmets reflecting the soft glow of the walls as they led the group deeper into the labyrinth. Zarel noted that despite the calm demeanor of the humans, their eyes betrayed an underlying intensity. They knew something she didn't, and she wasn't sure whether that comforted or disturbed her. They reached an enormous chamber at the heart of the complex, a place so vast that it could have swallowed entire cities. The chamber stretched far above them, disappearing into shadow, and its walls were lined with strange, glowing panels that flickered and hummed as though alive. At the center of the room stood a massive structure, a towering obelisk of unknown material, its surface covered in intricate carvings and geometric patterns. It seemed to radiate energy, its presence overwhelming. This, Captain King's voice echoed in the vast space, is what we have kept hidden. What we were forced to bury. Zarel's mind raced. The obelisk in front of her was like nothing she had ever seen before. It hummed with power, an energy that vibrated through her bones, yet it seemed both familiar and alien at the same time. It was older than anything the Kaiser had ever encountered, and yet it had a strange resonance with their own technology, as if it could be the key to unlocking all the secrets of the universe. "Explain." Zarel's voice was sharp, demanding. King stepped forward, his hands hovering just above the obelisk. "This is a remnant of an ancient civilization, one that predates all known races, including us. Our ancestors found it buried here on the moon, deep beneath the surface, centuries ago. At first, we thought it was just a relic, a piece of lost technology. But then, we discovered its true nature. It is not merely a machine, it is a gateway." "A gateway." Zarel's eyes narrowed, disbelief etched into her features. King nodded, his expression unwavering. "A portal, a way to other worlds, other realities." Zarel's thoughts whirled. A portal? She had heard of such things in passing, ancient, mythic devices that were said to link distant stars, to bridge the gulf between realities. But they were always dismissed as legends, too fantastical to be true. And yet, here it was, an ancient alien device that seemed to confirm those myths. "And the energy signatures we detected earlier?" Ven asked, his voice tinged with awe. "Are they connected to this?" King turned to face him, his eyes narrowing. "Yes, the energy bursts you detected were a result of the gateway's activation. We've been trying for centuries to understand it, to control it. But it's not something you can just study. It demands something more. It's a living system, and it doesn't yield its secrets easily." Zarel's gaze shifted back to the obelisk. It seemed to pulse with a rhythmic, almost organic energy, as if it were waiting for something or someone. She could feel the weight of it in the pit of her stomach, a sense that the universe itself was about to change. "And what happens if we can unlock its full potential?" Zarel asked, her voice low. King's eyes flicked briefly to the other soldiers, his face hardening with resolve. "If we can unlock it, then we will have the power to traverse not just space, but time itself. To move through dimensions, to touch the very fabric of the universe. We could rewrite the rules of reality." Zarel felt her pulse quicken. The Kaiser Collective had always prided themselves on their advanced technology, their unchallenged dominance across the stars. But this was something else entirely. The power to bend time and space, to move between dimensions. It was a power beyond anything the Kaiser could imagine. "This changes everything," Ven muttered, his voice filled with awe and fear. "If humanity controls this technology, it could be unstoppable." Zarel turned her eyes to the human captain, her mind racing. "And why reveal this to us now? After all this time, why expose the secret of your people's true potential?" Captain King stepped away from the obelisk, his face softening for the first time. "Because the time has come. The galaxy is changing, Commander. and we can no longer afford to hide from what we are. The Nexus Empire is coming, relentless, powerful, and determined to dominate. They've been hunting us for years, trying to uncover our secrets. But what they don't know is that the true power lies not in what we've built, but in what we've found. And if we're going to survive, we need allies. Powerful ones, like you. Zaral's mind reeled. The implications of King's words were staggering. The Kaiser had long been the protectors of the galaxy, the ancient ones who had held the balance of power for millennia. But now, humanity's hidden legacy had the potential to shift that balance in ways they could not predict. "And what do you expect from us?" Zaral asked, her voice hardening. King met her gaze steadily. "We need you to help us understand this power, to help us unlock it before the Nexus can use it against us. Together, we can stand against them, but only if we can master the gateway." Zaral stood in silence, her thoughts a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Humanity, once thought to be insignificant in the grand cosmic scale, now had the means to challenge the most powerful empire in the galaxy, and they were asking for the Kaiser's help. As the weight of the decision settled upon her, Zaral realized that the Kaiser Collective might not be the only ancient ones in this galaxy. Humanity had been waiting in the shadows, hiding their true strength, and now they had the potential to become something far more than anyone had ever imagined. "Prepare yourself, Captain," Zaral said, her voice calm but firm. "The future of the galaxy may depend on what happens next." The key to the void. The hum of the obelisk grew louder, its pulse reverberating through the chamber. Zaral felt it deep in her bones, as if the very structure of the moon was vibrating in response. She could sense the weight of what they were about to attempt, the gravity of the moment pressing down on her with increasing intensity. The air was thick with anticipation, and she knew, with unsettling certainty, that nothing could prepare them for what lay ahead. Captain King turned towards the obelisk once more, his face etched with determination. "We've spent decades researching this device," he said, his voice low and steady. "Every time we think we're close to understanding it, something changes. It adapts. It doesn't respond to conventional methods. But we believe that your species, might have the key." Zaral eyed the human carefully, her mind processing the gravity of his words. She had never been one for blind trust, especially not when it came to the potential for galaxy-altering power. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was no ordinary moment. The history of civilizations had been shaped by moments like this, when discovery met destiny, when ancient forces collided with the present. "Key," she asked, her voice taut with suspicion. "What makes you think we can control this entity?" King paused, his hand resting on the edge of the obelisk, his fingers brushing the glowing symbols etched across its surface. "Because, Commander, I believe the device recognizes something in you, something ancient, something related to the original builders of this structure." Zaral's eyes flicked to Ven, who was standing by her side, his tendrils twitching nervously. The Kaiser had long believed themselves to be the true ancients of the galaxy, the first and the most powerful. But now, with King's words hanging in the air, something in her mind stirred, an unsettling realization that maybe the Kaiser were not the oldest race to walk the stars after all. "Are you saying the Kaiser are not the first to reach for the stars?" Zaral's voice was tight, a hint of disbelief creeping into her tone. King nodded slowly, his face grim. "The builders of this device, whoever they were beyond anything we can comprehend. We thought they were just a myth, a forgotten race. But this obelisk, it's their legacy. And I believe it was waiting for the right species to awaken it. Perhaps in some distant corner of the galaxy, there were others who walked the stars long before us. And somehow, Commander, I think you are one of them." A chill ran down Zaral's spine. She stepped closer to the obelisk, studying the intricate carvings that adorned its surface. The symbols were like nothing she had ever seen, alien, yet strangely familiar, as though they were tapping into something deep within her. She reached out instinctively, her claws brushing against the cold stone. The moment her fingers made contact, the chamber seemed to shift. The walls shimmered, and the hum of the obelisk grew to a fever pitch, reverberating through the entire complex. Zoral recoiled, her heart pounding. What did I do? Captain King's voice was calm, almost reverent. You've made contact with it. You've unlocked something. It's recognizing you, Commander. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the obelisk, flooding the chamber in a pulse of pure energy. Zoral staggered back, her eyes squinting against the intensity of the light. The air crackled with static, and for a moment, it felt as though time itself had frozen. And then, as quickly as it had come, the light dissipated. The chamber fell silent once more, the hum of the obelisk fading into a low, steady pulse. Zoral stood motionless, her mind struggling to process what had just happened. She could feel the weight of the moment settling over her like a heavy cloak. That was not a reaction we were expecting, King said, his voice filled with awe. It's as if it's recognizing you as something more. Zoral's eyes flicked over to the human captain. What do you mean, more? King took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. I believe the obelisk is not just a machine, it's a living entity. It reacts to the consciousness of those who approach it, and from what I've seen, it's responding to you as if you've always been connected to it, as if your very presence awakens something within. Zoral's mind raced. Could it be true? Was she somehow linked to this ancient device, to the race that had built it? It seemed impossible, yet she could feel the connection, a pull that was both unsettling and undeniable. It was as though the obelisk had recognized something deep within her, something buried in her genetic code, or her very essence, that had triggered its activation. What happens now? She asked, her voice steady but filled with the weight of the unknown. We move forward, King replied, his voice resolute. We begin to understand the device, and we prepare to unlock its true potential. Before Zoral could respond, the obelisk pulsed again, this time with a softer, more insistent rhythm. The symbols on its surface began to shift and change, glowing brighter, rearranging themselves into new patterns. The air around them seemed to ripple as if reality itself were bending. Ven's tendrils twitched with alarm. This is not just a machine, this is a doorway. Zoral's gaze fixed on the obelisk, her mind alight with questions and possibilities. Could this truly be a gateway to other worlds? To other dimensions? If so, what lay beyond? And more importantly, who or what had built it and why? As the symbols continued to shift, an image began to form within the pulsing light, a vision of stars, of galaxies spinning in vast, unimaginable expanses. The image was fleeting, shifting as though it were a window to another reality, but it was enough. It was enough to confirm what Zoral had suspected all along. This was not just a machine, it was a portal, a key to the cosmos itself. Prepare yourselves, Zoral said, her voice steady but filled with anticipation. The future of the galaxy lies beyond this doorway, and we are about to walk through it. As the obelisk pulsed again, Zoral stepped forward, her hand resting lightly on its surface. The energy surged through her, and for the briefest of moments, she felt a connection to something vast, something ancient, something beyond the galaxy itself. The device hummed, its power building, and with it, a new path for the Kaiser and humanity alike began to unfold. Let's see what lies beyond, Zoral whispered, her heart pounding in anticipation. Into the abyss. The moment Zoral's hand touched the surface of the obelisk, everything shifted. The chamber around her seemed to dissolve, like sand swept away by an unseen wind, and in its place appeared an endless expanse of stars. She was no longer standing in the cold, sterile moon base, but was instead surrounded by the vast, shimmering infinity of space itself. It was as though the very fabric of reality had torn open before her, revealing the true, uncharted nature of the universe. Her breath caught in her throat, and for a moment she thought she was falling into nothingness. But the ground beneath her feet remained solid. The stars themselves, however, were unlike any she had ever seen. They were not mere points of light, but swirling vortexes of energy, glowing with colors she couldn't describe, vibrating with an intensity that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her own heartbeat. "Where are we?" Ven's voice trembled, the first sign of fear Zarel had ever heard from him. He was standing beside her, his tendrils pulsing erratically as he scanned the strange, otherworldly scene. The human soldiers, too, were on edge, their weapons drawn but useless in this alien place. No one moved. No one spoke. The air, if it could be called air, was thick with tension, with the unmistakable feeling that they were no longer in control of their own fate. King stepped forward, his eyes wide with awe and fear. This is beyond anything we could have imagined. The obelisk didn't just open a doorway. It's shown us a passage to something else, something that transcends our reality. Zarel's mind was racing. The images of stars swirling like living entities, the energy that pulsed in every direction. It felt like they were standing at the edge of the universe itself, peering into a dimension that was too vast, too alien to comprehend. The stars were not just light. They were alive, conscious, aware of their presence. A strange, distant sound began to echo around them, a deep, resonating hum that seemed to emanate from the very core of the universe. It was not a sound at all, but a vibration, a frequency that resonated deep within Zarel's chest. It was the sound of something ancient, something incomprehensible. "Can you hear that?" Zarel whispered, her voice barely audible over the humming. Ven's tendrils twitched again, and his eyes flicked nervously to the human captain. It's like the heartbeat of the galaxy," he said, his voice shaky. "We are standing in the middle of something older than anything we've known. I don't know how to explain it, but we are part of it now. We've crossed a threshold." Zarel turned her gaze back to the swirling expanse. The stars moved, shifting like massive celestial serpents. As they moved, the space around them bent and twisted in strange, unexplainable ways. The universe was not static here. It was alive, pulsating, stretching across unimaginable distances. Every star, every nebula, seemed to be connected, not by physical space, but by some deep, hidden force that defied the laws of physics as they understood them. King took a step forward, his face illuminated by the glow of distant stars. "This is the crossroads of realities," he said, his voice reverent. "The gateway leads to the intersection of countless dimensions. Beyond this, there are infinite possibilities, worlds, universes, timelines, all woven together by the threads of a greater fabric. And if we can understand it, if we can tap into this knowledge, we could become more than we ever imagined." Zarel's gaze locked on the human captain. His eyes burned with the same intensity that she had seen in the most daring of explorers, the kind who reached out into the unknown, driven by the unyielding thirst for discovery. He wasn't just speaking about survival, about power. He was speaking about the very nature of existence itself. "Can we control it?" Zarel asked, her voice cold and calculating. King hesitated. "I don't know, but we have to try. If we don't, we risk losing everything. The Nexus will find us, if they haven't already, and they will stop at nothing to harness this power for themselves. We can't let that happen." Zarel's eyes narrowed. The Nexus. She had heard their names spoken in whispers, rumors of their brutal empire spreading like a shadow across the galaxy. A race obsessed with domination, with control over everything, every star, every planet, every species. If they learned of the gateway, if they learned how to harness the power here, it would spell the end of everything. For all the civilizations that have fought for freedom, for autonomy, for survival. But if humanity and the Kaiser could unlock its secrets, the tables would turn. The Nexus would no longer be the hunters. They would become the hunted. "Then we must be the first," Zarel said, her voice low and determined. "We must learn its secrets before they do." As she spoke, the stars around them began to shift again. This time, the patterns were more distinct, an intricate web of light and energy, weaving itself into a coherent shape. Slowly, painfully, the image of something began to form within the chaotic swirl, a massive, towering structure, impossibly grand, made of the same strange material as the obelisk. It was an ancient city, sprawling and intricate, its walls glowing with the same pulsing energy that surrounded them. Zaral's heart skipped a beat. This was no mere vision. This was a map, a pathway. It was as if the obelisk, the gateway, was showing them where to go next. The city was a destination, and within its walls lay the answers they sought. "The city," Zaral murmured. "We need to go there." King's eyes locked onto the same vision, and for the first time since entering the portal, Zaral saw a flicker of uncertainty in his expression. That's where it all began," he said, his voice quiet with awe. "The place where the builders of this device came from, the birthplace of their civilization. If we can reach it, we may learn everything we need to know." Zaral felt the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders. This was no longer just about surviving. It was no longer just about the Kaiser or humanity. It was about uncovering the truth of the universe itself. What lay within the ancient city could change the course of galactic history forever. "We will go," Zaral said, her voice resolute, "but we must be careful. The Nexus is already looking for us. They will stop at nothing to seize what we found. And when we reach that city, we may not be the only ones there." As they prepared to follow the path laid before them, the stars around them shifted once again, the web of light growing brighter and more defined. The city, once just a dream, was now a reality they could reach. But with each step, they would be crossing into the unknown, into a domain where the rules of space, time, and life itself had no meaning. And Zaral knew that they would have to be ready for whatever the galaxy would throw at them.